friends, Dean here with Escape to Gaming. Today I want to do a simple video response to Vampire Mike of SegaCDUniverse. He did a fascinating little rant on his drive to work or wherever he was heading on this whole disposable age that we live in, where it seems like cars and phones and gaming and accessories and things in your home, everything seem to be made in a real disposable fashion. And to me, I look at it as not so much from a commercial standpoint of seeing things made, naturally things are made mass-produced and made cheaper so we can buy them cheaper. That's why people love Walmart here in the United States, because everything is dirt cheap. Some of the things are cheaper now than they were, 20 years ago, depending on what you're getting. I mean, I remember back when, you'd have to spend megabucks, $2,500 for a TV set in 1995. That'd be like spending, probably $5 to $7 grand today because of inflation, the way money has changed. So you can get TVs never before they've been cheaper. Technology is cheap because it's mass produced, typically by countries where they pay people very little money, and they're exploited. This is where the capitalism thing, for me, doesn't work. I see it's a two-edged sword. We benefit from so many wonderful aspects from capitalism, but because of greed, there's a bad side to it too, unfortunately. I don't want to get into politics and all that. I have my own views as a American libertarian, so to me I'm for everyone's freedom of speech and everyone's personal rights. I'm somewhat conservative, but I'm also a little liberal too. So I'm kind of a mixture. I'm my own person. I'm not going to be a fool or an idiot for either side. I'm not about that. I'm all about thinking for myself and being a critical thinker. I've worked hard my whole life. Everything that I have today is because I made decisions downstream and tried to think of things in terms of something lasting. And believe me, I've gone through. I gave away an enormous vinyl record collection. I mean, we're talking absolutely pristine records of every Ozzy album and Black Sabbath and The Doors. I mean, gorgeous records from the 70s all the way up into the 80s. And the minute I saw the CDs coming out, I said, the hell with these with these records, and I gave them to my ex-brother-in-law, my ex-wife, and of course he loved them. He was real happy with them. Today, got to be worth thousands probably. I recently got rid of all my gaming magazines that I had going back into the 90s, and I regret that now. I found 3 of them that were misplaced in a box of car magazines, and thank God for those. I'm like cherishing those 3 magazines that I found. But and I think it's all relative to where you are in time and where you are as far as your age. When you get up around in your 50s in particular, all of a sudden you start seeing the end. You start seeing the end in sight, and you realize that you've lived the bulk of your life, and that now it's like time goes by so fast. I mean, I've been married for 20 years. It seems like it was just yesterday. But 20 years from now, I'm going to be 73 years old and near the end of my life. So I have to really be careful with every decision that I make. Every choice that I make with my dollar, it has to count. And I knew this as being a business owner myself, making products and selling my art or whatever. Everything I do, I try to build my car paintings that I've done. I make them to last. I put like 5 coats of clear in them. I use the most expensive marine grade plywood imaginable. I use the most expensive paints, everything, to make it last. So it'll last for hundreds of years. Not that any of us are going to be around, but that's just the way I am. The signs I used to make them with the best quality materials, because I wanted them to last. And when I could drive by a place, 12 years later, and the sign still looks good and the colors still look vibrant, it's because I know I made the right choices with the paints that I used and the clear coats and polyurethanes or whatever. So I'm a big advocate of doing things right. I think it's like, you go out and you buy, if you have a child and you go out and buy a kid a bike, you can go down to Walmart and get a really inexpensive bike, $40-50 or whatever, and it probably will be fine. But the problem is that bike will break real easy. Then you take it to a bike repair place. It costs too much to repair it. Sometimes it's almost cheaper just to buy a new bike. So I've learned, so if you do that, you buy the cheap bike, you spend $50 on it, then you have to repair it and fix a couple things that break on it. Then you get $120 in this $50 bike, and then it breaks again. You end up tossing it out and then going and buying an expensive bike anyway. So my theory has always been, always buy the better part. I remember when I first, in the 80s, money was tight, in a lot of my cars, the alternator would go out, the battery, and I would get, rebuilt batteries and alternators, because they were cheap. But they wouldn't last. They'd last sometimes a month or a couple of months, and they'd burn out again. I'd buy another one. And even though some of them had a warranty and they'd give you, most of the value for it in a trade-in, I finally get to the point where I realized you're better off buying the most expensive parts. So I'd buy the most expensive alternator with the most amps and heavy duty, and sure enough, it would last. So I've learned early on that you get what you pay for. Not always, but quite often. So I'm a big person, a big advocate of, buying things that are going to last. Everything in our house was built to last. And we just finally got some new furniture just last year. But we had our old furniture set for 20 years. Or I think it was probably closer to about 19 years. I bought it in 95. And it's held up well. But every time we move, the marble dining room set we had in particular, it was so heavy and so fragile, the inlaid marble on it, that every time the movers would drop it, or I'd be moving with a friend, they'd drop it down, it would shatter one of the corners, and I'd have to rebond to it and paint in the fake faux finish and try to make it look normal again. And I'd repaired the furniture so many times that it was just finally, I told my wife, you know what, let's just get new furniture. I mean, we've lived for 20 years with it. So I'm someone that resists this disposable age. Now, I have a new flip phone now. I won't have one of these expensive iPhone 6, 7s, 29s, whatever they are. My sister, her and her husband, make a lot of money, and they, go buy the latest cars, and they've got several kids, all my nephews, and they buy the kids the most expensive iPads and iPhones. Every time I'm over visiting, that's all I hear is the kids bitching and whining because their friends have the new iPhone 7 or 6 or whatever, and they have to have it. And they just wear my sister down. Eventually they cave because they feel guilty because they don't spend enough time with the kids. And they buy them the most expensive plasma TVs. I mean, $6,000 television sets and iPads and all this stuff. And they're kids, and they throw it away. I've given some of my nephews some really rare gaming posters that came with pre-ordering older games, and I kind of wish I had hung on to them. I went over there one day, and one of the posters is wadded up and wrinkled up between the bed and the wall. I go, what happened to that poster? That's a really cool collectible Call of Duty poster. It's a shame to see it. Well, I don't care, Uncle Dean. I'm going to get some new pictures and posters for my room. Just an old poster. It's like they placed zero value on it. And this is this disposable mindset of a younger generation that's coming into play. They're raised on this because everything is disposable. They play a game. They play it and they're done with it. They throw the case away. They don't even care. The disc ends up on the floor somewhere under a bowl of old cereal or something, and it gets tossed out because they didn't take care of it. They place no value on it. Even these cases on these older Xbox games are made better than the new ones. The new ones are so flimsy and thin, which is, in a way is good because it's better for the planet to use less petroleum products and plastics, and because they just end up in landfills anyway. But I personally appreciate the better made cases of these older DVDs and games. It's just a shame they're in this disposable mindset. I mean, even these old, Sega Genesis cartridges still look and play fantastic today. It's amazing. And there's Super NES games, and I've got a couple of PS1s. They still work great, and the games play awesome on them, and it's so exciting to hang on for posterity for things. My dad will come over too, and he'll see that in my garage I have these old license plates of my first cars and all of the states that I've lived in. I saved one from Arizona when I lived there, and New Hampshire when I lived in New Hampshire, and one from Florida when I lived in Florida, and my first California plate and all this stuff. He goes, how did you ever have the foresight to hang on to all those license plates? I said, it's ingrained in me, My dad he's someone that's of a very disposable nature. He'll buy a brand new car, and in a year's time it looks like it's 8 or 10 years old, just thrashed, because he doesn't appreciate it. So I think that you can, even though things are made they aren't made to last, let's face it, like the old days, whether it's a car or a console or anything, but I think that if you compensate and take great care with them and then have backups of your consoles or of your items, like I went out knowing that CD players, and you can't get them anymore. I went out to try to buy a nice brand new stereo system, because my stereo system of almost 20 years finally burned out. You can't even get CD players anymore. I'm like going through Fry's and Best Buy, like, where the hell are the CD players? Oh, it's all MP3s now, or the Wi-Fi deals, and I hated that. So I I found online at bestbuy.com online, they still have a giant ghetto blaster, and I have that ghetto blaster up in my garage because I crank it when I'm out there washing my cars. I like to listen to CDs. And I still have a huge CD collection. I've got a giant physical movie collection, $75,000. I could go out and buy a brand new Corvette convertible for what I've got in my movie collection. That's going back from every VHS tape that I have, every DVD, and now the Blu-rays I'm collecting. And even that's kind of frustrating because I buy the VHS tape, and then a couple of years later they come out with this widescreen VHS, director's cut. So then I'd rebuy it again. And then the DVDs came out, and then I rebuy it again, and then it was a special edition DVDs. Now they're Blu-rays. Now we get 4K Blu-rays. And I've already rebought a bunch of movies in the 3D format. So it's frustrating that we have to keep spending our money on newer things to have the latest things. But at the same time, I can't get rid of them. My garage is filled with boxes of just nothing but VHS tapes. I don't have the heart to get rid of them. They aren't really worth that much money. I mean, I've thought of trying to sell them. A lot of them are very rare. You can't even get them on DVD. They're really rare films or TV shows or movies that I taped off Turner Classic Movies or something late at night years ago. And I just don't have the heart to get rid of them. Maybe someday they'll be worth a fortune. Who knows? I mean, I should have kept those records for sure for that reason. But we definitely are living in a disposable age. And it's very troubling that things aren't made to last. Everyone just wants to stream shit now. They just want to stream movies. No one cares about physical media. No one cares about buying CDs. I just got the CD for the soundtrack for the movie Drive that I just watched for like the 5th time the other night on Blu-rays, one of the first Blu-rays that I bought. And the soundtrack is amazing on it. I really love it. And I want the soundtrack. I want to see the liner notes and the pictures and everything. I love physical media. And to me, it's here to stay. My wife just got me that backup. I already have a brand new Xbox 360E with a 320 gigabyte hard drive. For all I know, that thing may last me the rest of my life. It seems like it's well made. And the reviews that I've read on them and seen on them seem to be like they're very well made, refined Xbox 360s. But just in case, because I know the reality of this disposable world that we live in and how cheaply made a lot of things are and the parts, components themselves. When I told my wife, she said, well, I'll get you an Xbox One for Christmas if you'd like. I really don't. Save your money. Get me an Xbox 360. The price just went down $50. I really would much rather have one of those to back up my 150-odd Xbox 360 games for years to come. And now they got this new, PlayStation 4.5 or Neo, whatever the fuck it is. I mean, and that's fine. I personally don't have a problem with it. I can't afford it right now, and maybe even a year from now I may not be able to afford it. But I was looking to get a backup PS4 anyway, and as long as the games can be played on both systems equally, and I'm not having to rebuy the same games in a special 4K format, then I don't have a problem with it. And I would gladly buy a new PS4.5 and put that in my living room with my bigger 4K TV so I can take advantage of the 4K that I paid for. And then put the older PS4 in my master bedroom with my 46-inch Samsung that's wall-mounted. So every choice that I make, I have to make it the best choice I can. I could have afforded to buy an Xbox One and a PS4 at launch, but we were trying to buy our house at the time. Money was tight, and I said, I'm just going to invest in one console. I really can't afford this time around to go nuts and have every game on both systems, and even though initially I wanted to. And I'm glad I waited, in retrospect. It's not so much because the consoles are cheaper now, but for me, I have one designated console for newer games. And even though I miss some of those Xbox One exclusives, I'm okay with it because I can only afford so much. And quite often now, instead of buying, new $60 games, I have to wait a few months until they are half price or a little less to buy them because I can't afford to go crazy with games. A couple of years ago, God, I'd buy every new game that came out. Especially for the Xbox 360, and then buy my friends' games too for their YouTube channels, and I was just spending money hand over fist, on games. Hundreds of dollars, maybe even thousands, on an annual basis on games. And now I use my little local mom and pop stores and buy many of these games, I get dirt cheap. Some of them I get for a couple dollars, or $4 or $5, or maybe $13, but it's all relative to what you think the games are worth, but to me, I'm excited about collecting for this, for the PS2 and the original Xbox because the games are well made and they work. There's no patches, there's no bullshit. Everything works great, and it's a beautiful thing. It's another one of my favorite racing games. I played the hell out of this on the PS2. And, speaking of the PS2, I went through 5 of those. I've actually had a total of 7 of them. But initially, I went through 5 of them because the lasers wear out. The very first one I sent in for the factory warranty, and I waited months, and eventually I got a new one from some distribution place in San Diego where they refurbish them or something. And it just wasn't worth it. So the next time the other ones break, I just go out and buy another brand new PS2, and then the controllers themselves would wear out. I mean, literally, you see the dust from the plastic where I just rotated everything right out of them. And I'd have to go through those like water. With the original Xbox, I only bought one Xbox. It lasted for 5 years, non-stop use. And even that, I bought it dirt cheap. I waited until the very end of the Xbox cycle and bought it. And 1 month later, the Xbox 360 came out, which I didn't know because I wasn't on the internet at the time. So to me, I just bought the multi-plats that were on the original Xbox, like Gun and Most Wanted, Need for Speed, and the Godfather games like that, and made the best of what I had. I always have. And I made that big mistake, which I've mentioned in a few videos, of getting rid of and trading in my PS2 and Xbox and all the games and giving them away because I just was into what was new. So even though for the most part I live for posterity and try, especially now that I'm older, money is tight. I can't afford it. I can't understand this mindset of going out and buying a brand new Xbox One or PlayStation 4, playing with it for a week or two or a month, and then getting rid of it, then making a video about, I'm sick of my PS4, I'm going to get rid of it, and now I'm going to just do PC gaming, or I'm going to get an Xbox One. They get the Xbox One, something about it they don't like, they're tired of it, and go get rid of it. And to me, you're just throwing money away. And when you're young, a lot of people, that's the disposable mindset that we live in. To me, I'm a measure twice and cut once person. I worked way too hard for my money to just throw it away, and just to buy things and then wear out a brand new expensive TV and not take care of it, throw it away 2 years later and buy another one. I bought my Samsung TV, bought the most expensive one that they had, in the hopes that it's going to hold out and last longer than a lot of the cheap ones I see at Costco for a third the price. And who knows? Maybe it will only last 5 or 10 years. I don't know. I'll have to deal with that bridge when I come to it, or that crossroad when I come to it. But all the furniture in my house, even this IKEA bookshelf here, is built to last. It's a much better quality than a lot of the other bookshelves that I could have gone on Craigslist for $40 and got probably a bigger one to put even more games on that's made of particle board or something. But I didn't want something cheap. I want something nice that's built to last. My wood bench in my game room, I got an expensive piece of wood and put several coats of clear on it because I want a heavy-duty table that will last forever. Everything in our house that we've done, the retrofitted windows, the paint on the wall, everything, I buy quality materials that is designed to last because I may not be able to afford to buy new furniture. This set of furniture I have right now, we actually got it at half price. It was a closeout sale on it. It sold kind of a southwestern contemporary style of furnishings, but it's all heavy-duty wood, our desk, everything. And we went and they had like a 50% off deal, and we bought all of it. I said, this furniture will last us the rest of our life. And that's it. When you're 50, you have to start looking at the end of things, unfortunately. And it's the same with gaming or consoles or anything else. I just finally got a new flip phone because my other one broke, and I got years out of the other one. I had paint all over it. I'd been using it in the field, dropped it God knows how many times, but it still worked. I use things until they don't work anymore, and then I get rid of them. I grew up in an age, in the 60s, in the 70s, where there was like mom and pop TV repair, shoe repair, furnishings repair. If your lamp broke, you fixed it. You read popular mechanics magazines and you learned how to fix your own toasters and appliances when they broke. Today we just throw all that stuff away. You go buy another one at Target or at Walmart, So I go watch my grandfather. He'd be fixing things in the basement on his workbench. He'd take a lamp and put a new cord on it, and he'd wire it all in, electrical tape everything up, and he'd have his old lamp. If a chair leg broke on one of the chairs, you get wood glue and you'd fix the wood and use vices, and and so everything was built to last. I had a 1960 Ford Ranchero, and that thing was built like a tank. Take out a phone pole with it and still fix it and drive it. I bet someone today is still driving that around LA after I get rid of it. It's a beautiful little white 1960 Falcon Ranchero with those straight six in it. Unfortunately, some of the parts you couldn't get for these leather oil seals on the back axle, like you couldn't get them anymore. I bought the last two in Los Angeles at a rare parts house, and I told the guys, "You mean that's it? There's no more of these?" Yep, you probably bought the last set of those made for that 1960 Falcon Ranchero. You cannot get them anywhere. This is one of the last outlets left that has those, and that's what's sad is when you see parts or consoles or cars or things, and you just know that they have a finite amount of time in them, and that it's going to be harder to replace parts. Now, we live in a day and age now where they take the old bodies and put them on new frames and new chassis and tune port, computer controlled, electronic, these fuel injected motors and what have you, and everything is kind of retrofitted. We can get a 1969 Charger, but put like a new Hemi motor in one of the new Challengers or something in it, and you can make it last longer that way. And there's a lot of restoration parts that are making good money of selling people brand new taillights and remanufacturing rare trim pieces and wheels and door panels and dash pads and everything for old cars. So I was really into that. I really appreciated that because the old cars were built to last. People back in the late 50s or 60s, they buy a car and with the intention of driving it for 10 or 20 years. This may be the last car you have. My truck is 7 years old. I'm not elated with the cheap plastic interior in it, but overall it's like the last real truck. Even the new 2009 and up Dodge Hemi trucks, they went with a softer, like a car suspension. They really aren't the same heavy-duty pickup like mine is. So I have the last year that Dodge made a really heavy-duty, full-framed pickup with the old-school pickup suspension. The new ones are coil-over suspensions that ride more like a car, but there's a lot more components that can wear out and break in them. And even the newer Hemis have some parts in them that are a little bit thin, a little bit too cheesy and lightweight for my taste. But my truck I've talked to people that know a lot about that engine, is good for 300,000 miles. It only has 70,000 miles in 7 years. That'll be the last truck I'll ever need. And then down the road, if I can afford it, maybe I'll buy a nice Challenger or a new Camaro for myself or something, and then baby that and take care of that. That'll be the last car I'll probably ever have. So everything I buy, I don't lease cars. I did it once and got screwed on a lease. Never do that again. So I buy things for posterity, the furniture, the TVs. Or we just had some new, solar screens, and I, could have went with a cheap outfit and really cheap screens. I spent a little bit more and got better quality ones. They're rated to last over 30 years. Same with a roof. I spent a lot of money for a new roof, close to $15,000. I could have had it done for $8,000 by some fly-by-night company, but they're probably going to be out of business in a year or two, and then if something goes wrong with it, it's going to fall apart, and I'm going to have to pay another roofer to come out and fix it. So it's just better to spend a little bit more and get something of quality. I'll never need another roof. We're not moving again. I mean, this is the last house I'm probably going to have. I'll probably die here in this little house. So instead of having a big two-story house like we had before, my mobility is getting a little bit limited, especially now, I like having a single-story dwelling. So every decision I make today is thinking of the future. I'm planning for the future, and my game room and my game collection is no exception. I'm looking at, that's why I have not one but two analog TVs. I have one nice, Super NES up there. I'll probably get another just in case as a backup. I got two Genesis, I've got two PS1s, and I've got a couple PS2s, and I just need one more PS3, and then I've got all my systems pretty much backed up. The games themselves, I suppose I could back them up with some of my favorite games with an extra copy or two. It probably wouldn't hurt, but I haven't really gone to that extreme yet. But I'm happy with what I have. And everything I've bought is here. All of these games, actually all three of these games were gifts that I got from my good friend Chance, sent me all of these. He's got a really great local shop where he gets the games dirt cheap. And these are all three games that I've been looking for my collection, couldn't find. And thank God that he found them and sent them to me. I sent him that Panzer, I think, Dragoon Orta for actually just the Need for Speed games. But he was nice enough to send me a couple other ones that he knew that I was looking for. But these are all games that I love. I played this on the PS2 quite a bit, and I played this on my friend's PS2. So these are games that I wanted. MX Unleashed, I played on the PS2. Test Drive Wide Open too. So these are games that I know for a fact that I like all three of them, and I wanted the superior Xbox versions. Now I do have the PS2 version of this because it's made by a different developer, and it's one of the best PS2 games that you can get. That's actually supposedly better than the Xbox version. But I try not to buy too many multiplats for both systems. I'm trying to streamline and make every dollar count. So I looked through my collection, and just recently I traded in a couple of PS3 games because I had the same Medal of Honor Airborne. I got on the PS3 and I got on the Xbox 360. I've played both. I prefer the Xbox 360 one. So I said, you know what, I don't need this. So I traded in. That's what I traded in to get my latest music CD, that Drive soundtrack. So I try to make my money stretch, and I don't know what the future's going to bring. I don't know. I mean, I'm worried about the ability of my PS4 down the road. If it goes offline or there's something new, can I continue to play those games offline without patches? I think I can. I think with a backup console and a real big hard drive, I can prepare for the future. So, but that's coming from my perspective, from the mindset of someone that's an older, person in I guess in a midlife, state of mind. Kids in their 20s don't think ahead. They don't. My daughter, is 24 years old. She doesn't know what she's doing next Friday, let alone a year from now or a couple of years later. So they live in the now. And everything is disposable. They drink a Starbucks coffee, throw the cup out. They get it. She always has the latest new iPhone thing. And every time I see her, she's got a new one. It's like, and her other father is buying all this stuff for it. Which I don't agree with, but it's nothing I can do about it. But I'm happy to see her happy, and she does take care of her things. So for what it's worth. But it's sad when you see in like my nephews or my own daughter, you see this very disposable mindset. They don't care about posterity. Everything is just quick here and now. Down like a Bic lighter, the light doesn't work, throw it away, get another one. There's no sense of keeping things for posterity or keeping things that are well made. And living with them down the road. And I think with a game collection, especially where prices of games are going up on some of these retro consoles and things, it really behooves you to think about the future and make your money count. Make every dollar count. Enjoy your consoles. Take good care of them. I take care of mine. I make sure they get plenty of air. I don't run them too long. I won't play 7-8 hours beyond that. Usually I'll play in like 4 or 5 hour stretches and shut it off to let it cool down, like to let it overheat too much. And I'm just very finicky and careful. My truck is the same way. Change the oil constantly. I'm a fanatic about making sure there's not one drip underneath it. Everything is perfect. And that way, like a NASA scientist, I know, okay, this thing is reliable. It'll make it to LA and back, if I want to take a 7-hour drive. So I've learned to take care of the things that I have for posterity. But we live in a world where no one cares. So to me, I like hanging on to old things. And, these old TV shows I have every season of the Andy Griffith Show, Leave It to Beaver, and All in the Family. And I can play these now or 20 years from now because I planned ahead. And hoping, and that's why in fact, I need to get another backup VCR. The one I have works flawlessly, but I'm afraid someday it's going to break and then you won't be able to get one, It's the same thing with the CD player. I went out and bought not one but two brand new portable, really high quality Sony CD players because I want to make sure I can listen to my CDs for years to come. Not only that, but then I ripped them into my Xbox 360 to just save the wear and tear on the disc, and then I use my Xbox 360's music player to listen to music in the house via my killer JBL soundbar and subwoofer. And it sounds better than any old school stereo system. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you care about the future and preserving, your legacy of gaming and taking care of your consoles? Are you just into the new thing? I mean, I can't even count how many of my friends at the minute the new Xbox One and PS4 came out. They said the hell with the PS. They're trading in their PS3s and as fast as they could in their Xbox 360s and all their games. And I'm like, oh God, don't do it. And now some of them are kind of missing those old games. God, I kind of miss Mass Effect and Red Dead Redemption, a lot of these games. And I can see that. So based on, seeing other people and how they live their life, seeing the good and the bad, is helped to refine my own viewpoint on this disposable age that we live in. Not all of us can afford to go crazy and buy consoles and sell them on a whim and then buy them back. You'll do that for a while, but money is getting tighter and tighter, where the economy still hasn't really turned around completely. I don't think it ever will. I think it's going to steadily get worse and worse. So we're going to have to make the most of everything that we have. And even though we live in a disposable age, we can compensate by taking care of the things that we have and making the best choices we can make to make our money go the furthest for our hobby, whether it's gaming or movie collecting or what have you. So anyways, my long-winded video response. Let me know how you feel about this, about the future. How do you feel about this disposable age that we live in? Do you care? Do you see it as that yourself, or do you not see it as that? If you're younger, you may not even see these dynamics because you're so used to seeing this disposable. Here today, a few years, you buy another console, another iPhone, another Blu-ray player, and you're always onto the new thing, which I understand. I like new technology. I certainly want to see. I would like it to afford a 4K Blu-ray player and some of these new movies. I'd love to see it with a high dynamic range TV that I have, with the color palette and everything that it has. It's capable of incredible depth and color and contrast. It'd be nice to take advantage of it. I have a lot of upscaled movies now that look fantastic on it, but so I want that, but I realistically can't afford to keep updating and upgrading constantly with my technology. Sometimes technology seems like it grows faster than our wallet does. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thank you, Mike, for this thoughtful topic. I think it was a really good one. I'd like to hear anyone else that wants to elaborate on it. Do a VR to Mike on it. I think it's a great topic, and it deserves. We're living in an age where we really should think about our mindset of where we are. Is life worth preserving the things that we love? From my viewpoint, when you get older, I guarantee you're going to look back and you're going to regret, oh my God, all those things I had, I should have kept them. That's the best advice I can give, is hang on to those things that you love as best you can. I know space, everything takes up space. I know I have a very small home, very limited storage. I'm going to have to build another shed just to store a lot of the things that I have. But I don't have the heart to get rid of them either, so I hang on to things like a pack rat. But I'm careful and very selective of the things that I decide to hang on to. I've thrown out so many gaming magazines and car magazines and stuff over the years, but I don't have the heart to throw any of my books away. I'm keeping my books, definitely keeping my CD and my movie collection. So anyway, do a VR to Mike on this, or just put down in the comments down below how you feel about this disposable age that we live in, and everything that we buy in our lives. Like cars, furnishings, TVs, everything seems to be kind of going the way of throwaway things. And the gaming trends, to me, is the biggest concern, because everything is geared to like a digital only. Console lasts 3 or 4 years, you get the next one. And a lot of us are having a problem with that, and I certainly validate those feelings. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and no matter what they are, enjoy your games and your movies. Thanks for watching.